All right, let's get on to the last movie for tonight. That is the Passion of the Christ.
Yeah. All right. What you wanna?
Yeah, let me just bring up the synopsis for this one. All right. In this version of Christ's crucifixion, based on the New Testament, Judas expedites the downfall of Jesus by handing him over to the Roman Empire's handpicked officials. To the horror of his mother, Mary Magdalene, whom he saved from. Wait, I should. To the horror of his mother, Mary Magdalene, whom he saved from damnation, and his disciples, Jesus condemned to death. He is tortured as he drags a crucifix to nearby Calvary, where he is nailed to the cross. He dies, but not before a last act of grace.
So where we both enjoy all the cinematography and set design and all that costume design in the previous film that we just talked about.
Mm-hmm.
This movie blows that way out of the water.
Holy crap! Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, just in terms of like immersion, this is done far better than Last Temptation of Christ. Like you actually believe that you're in first century Judea.
Yeah. I think this is also the majority of it was filmed in Italy.
Mm-hmm. I believe so. Yes. I mean,
And
given the cast, a lot of the cast are Italian actors. So.
yeah, and the only I don't think he was big at the time, but the only like big name actor that we would recognize is Jim Caviezel, and this is the movie that made him.
Or Monica Bellucci.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember watching it I remember watching it in theaters, and I was like, yeah, that Mary Magdalene's too hot. that was just my thought. It's like Monica Bellucci is such a beautiful woman. Tasty Slice confirmed, but that's obvious. But she was so beautiful. It was a little distracting.
Yeah. Well, and that's yeah. I mean, I would assume that Mary Magdalene was a very beautiful woman, so maybe she was too hot. I mean, she was a prostitute, so I mean, you had to be a little bit hot too.
Wait, was she? Well, like, there's always this confusion about like the Mary or like the woman, because like there's the prostitute, there's the adulterer,
so
and then there's also right. Yeah.
Yeah, you have Mary, the mother, Joseph's wife. That's the mother.
The mother, yes.
Virgin Mary. Although she didn't remain a virgin because Jesus had siblings. Then you have Mary, the sister of Martha, and I think it's Lazarus, Mary, and Martha. Those three are related. Then you have Mary Magdalene. She was the prostitute that was saved by Christ. And although it's not stated biblically, it is believed that the story of Christ with the where he's the verse is talking about
with the adulterer, right? Where they bring in the woman.
Who among you has not sinned? Cast the first stone.
Yeah, that's
the whole idea of him. And the person that is supposedly, a lot of people speculate that the woman that's there is supposedly Mary Magdalene.
Okay, so the woman caught in adultery was.
Yeah, a lot of scholars speculate that may have possibly been Mary Magdalene.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, there's nothing biblically to
link them,
say that that's true, but it's speculation from scholars.
Right. Just really quickly. This movie, The Passion of the Christ, this makes The Last Temptation of Christ look like a high school production.
dude, yeah. And Scorsese is like one of the greatest
Right,
directors
and
of
I'm
all
not.
time.
Yeah, that's not a ding against Scorsese or his skill. It's just.
Yeah, I mean, was this uh, Gibson's directorial debut?
I don't believe so.
I don't know, like, cause uh, but yeah, he well later on he does like a movie Apocalypto.
Right.
And,
Oh yeah, that was. But that was after Passion of the Christ.
that was after this. Yeah, this is like the first one I can remember where like he's like directing, producing it, all that stuff.
Pull up the IMDb here.
Uh, and
Oh, he has
what I
9
like,
credits.
he hasn't done too much. I think his most recent film was like
Oh,
Hacksaw.
technically the first thing he directed was a TV movie documentary. Mel Gibson goes back to school, but I think his first theatrical uh, his first theatrical director's credit is The Man Without a Face.
Oh shit, I forgot about that film. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the one with Elijah Wood.
Yeah, yeah. I totally forgot about
Oh, and he
that.
also, well, he that might have been co-director. It says here he directed Braveheart too.
That's right. Yeah, he did do parts. He did.
Right, but I thought he
Yeah,
also had a co-director, the one that he did We Were Soldiers with.
that's right. But I think that was after Passion, wasn't it?
No, 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 Braveheart was before Passion.
No. I know Braveheart was '95, but he did We Were Soldiers too. That was his movie. Like that he
Well, he
directed.
was in that movie, but then I think the guy who helped co-direct Braveheart uh, fully directed We Were Soldiers.
Oh, I see. Okay, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um. So okay, let me go. Let me go over this film because there was obviously when this movie came out in 2004, uh, people went fucking ape shit over this. Like, oh man, we gotta watch this. This is the most important movie of our time.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, it is a bit especially for people within the Christian community. This is a very powerful movie. Obviously, it's
Mm-hmm.
talking about the passion of Christ, essentially going from uh, the Last Supper up until his death on the cross, and at the end, the ending is essentially like his resurrection. Um, with like yeah, some other you know flashbacks thrown in, and one thing that's interesting that they do in this is a lot of there's been work with biblical scholars trying to create a gospel narrative that is chronologically accurate, utilizing all four gospels.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and because the way that they're written here is the gospels are written thematically. They're written, each one is written with a different purpose in mind, and it's written to a different audience. So that's why like certain things are included in others that aren't included in another one. Um, or then there's like some stories that are included in four. Uh, but what they were trying to do in this is kind of creating chronological timelines. They're including stuff that is in all four gospels that they threw together in this. Um, so it's not just like one. It's not like they're utilizing the Book of Matthew. They're utilizing all four gospels. They're using some extra biblical sources and
Right.
scholarly speculation.
Yeah. I mean, one thing that I knew about was kind of like this Catholic tradition of like this woman who offers her like a scarf or something to clean off the face of Jesus, and that becomes later like uh, some
Yeah,
sort of relic that's able to like heal people. That was in this
yeah,
movie.
yeah.
So that's like that. So that
Well,
would
then
be
there's
that would be the extra biblical
right, right.
material.
Yeah. So there's a few of those moments in there, and the one thing that because Gibson was saying is like he didn't necessarily want it to be he wasn't necessarily going for historical accuracy, but he did want it to be as biblically accurate as possible. And but then he was also going to take some artistic license. We get that in you know, places where Satan is kind of lurking around,
Yeah, yeah,
and you
yeah.
have like and some of the demons and stuff that he shows, and
Yeah, like
you
when
have his
like the kids are kind of tormenting Judas, and like their faces flash into like demon a little bit.
well, and yeah, and the one thing I actually thought was I liked that part of the movie. That's another artistic license is because biblically we don't other than that Judas killed himself. Um, we don't know like what type of torment he actually went through. 'Cause Judas is actually a very interesting character. Uh, unlike in Last Temptation, he wasn't necessarily like best buds with Christ, even though he was one of the disciples.
Yeah, he's one of the homies, but he just he wasn't like
Right, and
he just wasn't in like the smaller circle. He was part of like the circle, but then like circle within circles kind of.
yeah, exactly. And biblically with Judas, yeah, he a lot of people speculate that it was the time where at Mary Martha's place where or was it one of like the last things where like Jesus had that very expensive jar of perfume like poured over him
Mm-hmm.
when Judas was saying it's like because he was the money man and like
Right,
we could have sold that and we could have given that to the poor and just like yeah you'll always have the poor like you're not gonna have me for much longer
right,
and that's when it's like oh this guy isn't gonna overtake Rome it's something completely different and that's where like he starts scheming um,
right. Well, that's the point where Judas becomes disillusioned with Christ, and he goes to betray him.
right but what I liked is that because afterwards we see like after Christ is handed over to um, the Sanhedrin and the high priest of the temple, uh, he does regret like selling out his friend,
Mm-hmm.
and he tries to hand back the silver, and they're like, "Yeah, that's blood money. We can't take that."
Yeah,
It's like, um, and so then he goes and ends up like killing himself because he feels like he he can't overcome that betrayal.
right. Yeah,
And
he can't live with himself knowing that he betrayed his friend.
yeah, but I thought like Gibson portraying um, the anguish that he was going through,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I thought that was actually very very tastefully done. Kind of like I said, it does give us a little bit of insight into
Right. It
some of the
it
horror.
it 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 humanizes him for sure, and for us, a brief moment becomes a sympathetic character.
The other thing I love about this film is I'm really happy that they have it shot in uh, the languages of the time. So obviously you have Aramaic, you have Latin, you have Hebrew. Uh,
Mm.
I didn't Greek. I didn't hear any Greek, but those three languages are used. And funny thing is that Gibson didn't want there to be any subtitles. He just wanted it to be in the language, but they overrode him on that one.
Oh
So
yeah,
they
I
yeah,
mean obviously.
I'm kind of like yes, I do know Hebrew a little bit. I have studied Aramaic. I don't know Latin yet. I mean I know some terms, but thank God there are subtitles because I would have. I mean, obviously, I know the story. I could get through it, but
Right.
it would be so weird without there being any subtitles in the film.
No, yeah, I was a little worried because like the copy that I found, uh, The subtitles
Now,
didn't come out right away. I was like, oh shoot, what the heck? And I was just. But then I went into the controls and I figured it out. But yeah,
yeah, now there were parts where subtitles weren't needed. Like when when Jesus is getting whipped, uh, he is
yeah, he's
that's
being
all
mocked
I
by the
think all
Roman.
in Latin. Yeah, but there's no subtitles in that scene at
Right,
all.
or at least not everything was subtitled. Like the mock, like some of the mocking of the Roman soldiers was like in Latin, but it's like I don't,
Yeah,
you don't see the translation of what they're saying to Jesus.
exactly. So but I said I
But I mean,
really like
ultimately, but in those instances, it might not necessarily be 100% necessary because I think you're supposed to get like the emotion of the moment. Where it's like you're watching this
right.
guy,
And
this innocent man being being beaten, nearly to death, and he like these men, even though they're supposed to be professional soldiers, they're taking this kind of perverse delight in torturing uh, this man,
yeah,
and
and
it just kind of
like
makes you think. It's like they don't even know if he's guilty or not. They're just ordered to do it. And it's just like so
they like the
how many other men like that didn't that didn't deserve it, were given this treatment. So just
yeah
kind of and so and so coming from the point of knowing that Jesus did nothing to deserve this, it hits you even harder.
yeah no that was really really powerful. Um, and the other thing is like a lot of people, oh, this is just torture porn, and like this is we can't watch this. Like,
Right. I think that was a lot of the criticism when this movie first came out. It's like,
um,
oh, it's so overly graphic, and why does the violence need to be portrayed in such graphic detail? It's just like
yeah, but
because
that's exactly
that's what
what
happened.
happened.
I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, because
that's
like
exactly
it's like the same people who are criticizing Alien for its or no, who was praising Alien for its like groundbreaking visuals, and like the graphic horror, but then you see something, you see Jesus being beaten, nearly to death. It's like, oh, that's too much.
well. It's these are also the same people that also watched that whipping scene in Roots.
Oh, right, yeah, like yeah.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, this
And
is
what's your
great.
name,
This
boy?
is the
Tobe Kuta Kente. Your name is Toby.
your name is Toby. Like, dude,
Right.
like,
And
but
they're
they
like,
love
oh,
that.
it's so powerful. Like we need, like yeah, we needed to see this, so we know what black people went through. It's just like, yeah, exactly. That's why we're showing you this, so you know what Jesus went through for you.
Yeah. Now there was, yeah, and I think that's because we read. I mean, I have a good imagination. I didn't like have screens put in front of me at like 2 years old. Um, but like you read this stuff and it's like sometimes the the visuals don't always get there, and seeing something like this, which is for the most part very biblically accurate, and seeing that like, actually take place, like holy shit, this is
Right. Because
this
yeah,
is this is
because I
serious.
think a lot of the media that we get, like depicting this scene is very sanitized. He in other iterations, you might see like Jesus have like a little welt, like a kind of like a welt on his like cheek, or you might get like the kind of like the crimson stripes, across his back.
Yeah, I mean
But you don't see the detail they went into like in the scourging. It's just like,
the
dude, Jesus looked like fucking hamburger meat.
yeah, the makeup designer that worked on this did a fucking fantastic job.
Yeah,
They should
they
win.
obviously the special effects
Yeah, they
makeup
did win.
person,
They did
they
win.
must have done their research. Like they must have went out and like flogged some pig carcasses
Yeah,
just to get the. I think they actually did do that. I think to get
yeah,
the look right, they went and like they got reconstructions of like the cat of nine tails and things like that. And they saw the damage done like firsthand, so they could get like they could truly represent what would have happened, what if Jesus' body would look like.
yeah. Well, I did, and the Academy Award in 2005 won for best makeup. Yeah, obviously. Cinematography and best score. Um, yeah, no, that was the thing is that's exactly what happened, and it happened to a lot of prisoners at that time. Like, they would beat the shit out of these people,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of them didn't make it. Like medical speculation, based off yeah, especially after this movie came out, a lot of people did medical doctors speculated like what exactly Jesus was going through physically, and uh, more than likely, he was going through shock. I mean, your skin is essentially an organ, which they nearly skinned him to death,
Right.
and
They nearly skinned them alive.
yeah, and the he was probably going to shock, and
Yeah, because
like
of the
he
blood
could barely
loss.
eat. Yeah, and uh, yeah, it was bad, but that's what happened. And now, as far as what's actually happening to Christ, yeah, the physical pain was there, but what a lot of people, like Christians and people who aren't Christians and non-Christians alike, don't realize what's the spiritual and emotional torment that Christ was going through, because you have, and this is where mystery comes in, that we don't understand, we can't understand what was going on, but like we have Jesus, who's part of the triune God, he's part of the Trinity, and he has separated himself out from that to come down on earth, to be that sacrifice for humanity, and he's essentially completely separated from God in that moment. And yeah, his body's hamburger meat, but that pain hurt worse than all of those with you know, essentially his skin being ripped off. And we just don't understand like how much pain that must have been
Yeah.
like. But yeah, no, this is a great, and that like I said, I was kind of concerned to try to go back to this after, I mean, 2004. There was so much hype. Like, if you were at church at that time, like that was what you were doing on like on a Friday or Saturday night. Like, we gotta go see the Passion of the Christ.
Right. There were churches reserving entire theaters just so like their
Yeah.
congregations could go and watch it.
Um. And yeah, so I was a little concerned, kind of like, I'm watching this 16 years later. Am I gonna feel the same way about it? And I was, I really like how this movie came out. Like, they did a really good job. Um, uh, God, yeah, it grossed $622 million worldwide. Um, that's yeah, it was super super popular at the
Mm-hmm.
time. There was, I guess I didn't think of this, or I didn't hear about this initially, but like apparently there was a lot of people who were like, "Oh, this movie is very anti-Semitic." It's like, well, no, how? Um, the guy that is being killed on the cross, he's Jew. All his disciples, his family are Jews. Like, how is it anti-Semitic? Like, this is what happened. They and it wasn't that like, oh, Jews killed Christ. It's like, yeah, he's a Jew himself. Like, it's like, so I don't understand what's anti-Semitic about it.
Right. It's like saying Boys in the Hood is anti-black. Like, why? It's like, well, you have black people killing other black people. It's like, that's what happens.
Right. Um, well, and even there's a lot of, when we look at the passion too, there's a lot of it starts with like Palm Sunday, where like people are celebrating, Christ, like they recognize him for who he is, um, that he is, essentially King of the Jews or whatever. And then you look to, um, the next week when he's, um, being put on the cross, and everyone's like booing him, spitting on him,
Right. Yeah,
kicking
I
him.
love that that contrasting shot where you see Jesus, and he's being jeered at and spit at, and things are being thrown at him. And then he has, kind of like the memory of just a week prior, and like that same crowd was cheering for him, and and giving him a royal welcome into the city of Jerusalem.
Now, see, here's where I'm going to differ on that, because I argue that it's not the same that's that was cheering from the week before isn't cheering at it, and I think this movie does a pretty good job of showing that too,
Oh
because
well, yeah.
um,
But
because if you look at how
but I'm gonna say that in real life there was I'm gonna say a 50-50.
yeah, I'm pretty sure that there was a few. It's like, oh, he's not going to try to take out the Romans, so screw this. Um,
Or
but
there are some
he,
people who are just like who are kind of like the disciples that scattered after his arrest, just kind of like they're just kind of more or less going with the crowd, um, and
well,
and, be,
I
and
think
getting swept up in the frenzy. But go ahead.
no, but my point is that like the whole thing is a fly by night operation. Um, Caiaphas and all the the elders of the temple are essentially are trying to do this under the cover of darkness. You even had that one elder's like, but like not everyone's here. Like we can't like, make any judgment and like kick his ass. Because he's like,
You could
because
say
he's
that
going
it was
against.
a conspiracy.
Well, it's exactly that's exactly what it was, and you even have like the whole court thing that was kind of the kangaroo court that was set up. It was they probably off, which is not unlike something that would happen today. And
Well, yeah, I mean,
you
I don't know if you caught it, but or I think you did mention this, but when they initially brought Jesus into the temple, and like the temple guards, they were going around to houses and they were giving people money to come out. It's like, hey, come out and be our mob.
yeah, and see like uh, that's that's why like I think this movie does a pretty good job of showing what was really going on, and because then you also see there's people that were Christ followers, obviously like his disciples, like his mom, Mary Magdalene, were there, but there was other people that knew who he was. They were weeping for him, and it's like, what's going on? He's innocent. He's innocent. Why? And he didn't do this, and a lot of and yeah, like a lot of those people that were like jeering at him, like not even a week later, those aren't the same people. It's and I think, like I said, I think this movie does a great job of giving visualization where like sometimes the imagination just can't see it. Um, uh, yeah, this movie's just done really well. I really like the film a lot. And this,
Hmm?
I'm trying to think if there's any other like scene or I can't really think of anything else. Do you have any other like scenes or things that you enjoyed about the film?
Hmm. I think. Oh, I don't know why, but I always enjoy uh, depictions of the scene in the Garden of Gethsemane.
Yeah,
Um,
this is definitely the best one.
hmm, well, in terms of in terms of composition and aesthetics, I kind of like the Last Temptation of Christ one a little bit more than Passion.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I
Well, I think
I'm
because
kind of surprised.
I think because Last Temptation of Christ, uh, the the composition or the setup of the scene in the garden was more aligned with kind of like the traditional images that you would have. Jesus, kneeling by the rock and the moonlight coming down. So aesthetically, I like that better. Even though I think When Passions is more uh, emotionally powerful. Because it's like even though there is some moonlight, he's still mostly in darkness, which goes to the frame of mind or that kind of like the current situation that he was. Like he felt like he was alone. He felt like as though he was in darkness because he knows what is about to take place.
Yeah.
So just in terms of aesthetics, I liked Last Temptation a little bit more, but in terms of uh, emotional depth and symbolism, I like Passion.
Okay, that makes sense. I see what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like you said, I think that definitely conveys the emotion of the moment. Whereas like maybe because the reason I didn't like the one from Last Temptation is because I don't know. I didn't believe the performance of Willem Dafoe in that moment. Like I
Right.
felt
I
like
mean, yeah, and that's why in terms of performance, or depth and feeling, I give it to Passion because, yeah, Willem Dafoe is supposed to be portraying Jesus at his furthest stretch. He knows about to take place, and yet, he's praying earnestly. He does put that out there, or he does portray that that he is praying like in all earnestness, and and he's like desperately and desperation. But but how it's depicted in Passion is a lot more impactful. You
yeah,
have him like sweating, and like you have like it's like I think they did like the blood for sweat thing where Jesus was praying so hard that he began to sweat blood, and which kind of gave him like this kind of dirtier look.
yeah.
And
Now
so
here's
yeah,
something
so
else.
that's yeah. So in terms of like impact, I think Passion did it better.
One other thing is before we and this will be my last thing. As far as Jim Caviezel as Bryce, did you like how he looked as far as like his I thought his eyes were like a little interesting, like because they went with like
Right?
a very
They did
color.
lighten them. They did lighten them because I know Jim Caviezel has like dark brown eyes, but
Yeah, but like
I
they,
think
but it wasn't even like it was like a bright brown. It was like orange. It was a weird
yeah, it was a
color.
very warm, almost like amber.
Yeah. Uh, but like, did you feel like he looked the part pretty well?
I would say so. Yes.
Yeah, because you have like I don't know, like you have Ginger Christ from The Last Temptation to this
Right?
one.
Yeah. Yeah. Willem Dafoe's Jesus was he definitely he was more of like a sandy blonde.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I mean, you
But
always have
yeah, but
those
Jim Caviezel,
like
Jim
kind of
Caviezel's Jesus, I think, is more accurate.
yeah, because
Just given the area of Judea and
yeah,
in the region of Palestine. There is no country of Palestine. There's the region of Palestine.
yeah. But yeah, no, I thought the eye color was so cool. Sometimes like
Yeah.
not distracting, but I don't like I said, ticky tack.
Well,
I just had
were you lost in Jim Caviezel's eyes, Robert? Is that what you're trying to say?
I was a little bit, yeah.
I don't know. I really
But
didn't notice, but the second, seeing watching this now again, after like 16 years, as you said, I did notice that his eyes were lighter, and then I just thought that they enhanced his eyes at the end, but kind of remembering back to the movie, yeah, his eyes were light the entire time. It just wasn't for that scene at the end when he's like resurrected.
right. Yeah, no, I like I said, there was things that well, when I watched it back then to now, my knowledge and my wisdom is completely changed. Obviously, I know so much more about the gospel, the narrative now than I ever have. Um, I've studied Hebrew and Aramaic, so I'm actually able to. I think I could have gone by without the subtitles this time around. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, it's a good movie. I'm glad that I watched.
Agreed.
And I think if you're looking for a movie with the with a fairly accurate gospel narrative, this this is the movie for you. Uh,
Right, and
this is
I
a
think as kind of like an evangelical tool, I think this one is better than Last Temptation Christ.
oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to, like, not sure that I wouldn't say that I wouldn't use this as like the introductory tool, but I would highly
No,
recommend like you sharing this with someone who's read the gospel, who's seeking and who's at least read the gospels, if not at the least one of the gospels, and then show them this movie to
yeah,
let them know that what Jesus went through. It's like it's not just a book, it's not just a story. This is factual. This is historic. This is historically backed up. It's like every historian, every ancient historian has mentioned that there was a man named Jesus who taught in Judea and who taught a very radical uh, sect of Judaism, and he uh, was executed by the Romans. It's confirmed, not just in the Bible, but in ancient sources, and also the it's in the records of the Romans, because the Romans, like all great societies, they have that keep all great societies keep great records, and the
yep,
Romans were no exception. And so there's little documents saying with of prisoners or execution lists, and like the name Jesus appears, and it's not it's like, oh well, Jesus could have been a very common name. It's like, no, it's like, again, great great societies have great paperwork. And it's detailed. It's not just, oh, just it wasn't as though it was like there were like 20 Jesuses on that sheet. It was like
yeah.
Jesus,
I mean,
from this region, from Nazareth, from son of you
from
know
Galilee.
from Galilee, son of Mary and Joseph, and and on and on and on, to drill
Well,
down.
and the other thing that with those ancient experiments too, they also talk about during the time back they record some of the things that are going on during the time of the book of Acts, and how all of a sudden the disciples who they start talking about them. It's like you see how emboldened they are and fearless they've become. And it's like so clear. And we know like some of the stories of them from the biblical narrative and how that's really not the case at all, at least when, during the Gospels. And so it's like clearly something has changed in them. And it's like, well, what is it? It's the resurrected Christ. That's what changes the whole game for them. Their whole life becomes different.
Right, and also it's who and like a simple test would be like, would you die for a lie? Like
Yeah, no,
if people it's like, oh no, there's they just the disciples just lie, they stole Jesus' body and they hid it away so no one could ever find it. It's like, would you ever die for a lie? Someone said if someone you and your buddies each had a lie, like, oh yeah, and then you were caught, caught by the police, and like, would you die for that lie?
yeah, it's no,
No, exactly. And it's like it was the same for people back then. No one would die for a lie.
yeah, it wasn't like yeah, it was like Paul and Peter and these guys were one or like was the first martyr was Stephen, where it's
Yeah,
like
Stephen was the first
he's
martyr.
about and he was about to be stoned to death, and he could have gotten out of it, but he's like, no, it's this is I'm going to share the gospel here, and I'm going to die, and that's what happened. He was stoned to death. Yeah, same thing with like Peter, like he kept getting beat, whipped, all this stuff, and instead of like, yeah, you know what, it's not really worth it, he kept going at it, and eventually it led to his death. And same
Right.
with Paul.
Yeah, it's like, would you die for for the claim that water wasn't wet?
Yeah, right.
Like, yeah, who would do that? Nobody would do that. It doesn't make sense. Like, I would not die for the lie that water is not wet.
Yeah, it's be ridiculous.
Precisely. All right. Let's get our rating and get out of here, Dave. It's a long one.
Yeah. This is a 4.5 for me. Um, I think it's not only biblically accurate, but it looks beautiful. The makeup, uh, costume design, fantastic. Set design, it looks great. Um, I like the idea that they went with the languages of the time, not just some like British, uh,
Right, which is kind
British
of like the
accent.
default, like because like with Gladiator and stuff, or, like a lot of people do, like they depict Romans with like British accents because they think like, or with
It's
British
distinguished.
actors, yeah, it's like more
Yeah,
distinguished. And no, but then also like Latin, Latin sounds a lot like Italian, so no one wants to, no one wants to hear Maximus like, "Are you not entertained?" You know.
yeah, exactly.
So kind of, I understand
Um,
why they do it, but it's like, uh, "Are
but
you
yeah,
not
no.
entertained?" um.
And yeah,
Yeah,
it's
you
just
know what?
I
I'm
think
gonna. What was it?
I was saying that this movie's really well done. It's
Yeah,
really good.
it's really good. Um, I'm gonna give it a 4.5 as well, but I'm only dinging it a half because Monica Bellucci is too damn hot.
uh,
She's too distracting.
yeah, no, it's like if you're wondering what it looked like when they beat the crap out of Christ, this movie is the one to watch.
Oh yeah, absolutely, 100%.
And I second the Mary Magdalene was just too damn hot.
Yeah, it's too damn hot. Or Monica Bellucci portraying Mary Magdalene was just a little too
Yeah,
distracting for me. Just a little too distracting. Because Monica Bellucci, She's a beautiful woman. She's like a stupidly, ridiculously beautiful woman.
Agreed.
Right, tasty slice confirmed. All right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we gotta start making that thing. I'm gonna start putting up tasty slices on our Instagram.
Yeah. Yo, we should that should be a T-shirt of ours. Tasty slice.
Yeah, tasty slice confirmed. Yeah, and oh, I'm gonna come up with some designs.
Awesome.
Uh, all right, well that's our review of Passion of the Christ. Both Robert and I gave it a 4.5. Definitely recommend it, even if you're not someone who thinks that they're really would be interested in a Bible story. This movie is so much more than just the Bible story. It's a great movie. Period. Great cinematography, great effects, great really great acting. And you have to give them extra credit because they're because they're because you're speaking in a dead language,
Yeah.
or at least or possibly multiple dead languages.
Yeah. Well, Aramaic and Latin are dead languages.
Yeah. Um, And so, yeah, definitely recommend it if especially if you're an individual who's seeking. You know, I wouldn't necessarily say if you just if you're seeking but you don't really know much about the Bible and things. I wouldn't recommend you watching this first thing. But definitely, after you connected yourself to a local church, and you've read through the Gospels, minimum two Gospels. You know,
Yeah.
better best if you read all four Gospels, a minimum two Gospels before watching these movies. And in addition to all the things I mentioned previously about getting involved in a local church, and getting a few sermons under your belt.